My guest today is Crockett Carothers of the Wealthy Cowboy Show, and we're going to talk to him about the tools and skills of a day working cowboy.
Yeah, they don't necessarily move cattle. Their job is to go find them, and then so they have a little bit of a nose on them, so they'll go find them, and then a bay is just I think like in Florida they might call them like circle or ring dogs or something, but a bay is just they'll circle them up and hold them in a herd basically. So before you get there, like before you engage the cattle as a rider, horse and rider coming up, generally we'll ride up on them and let them bay for a while, and they're just going to circle the cattle until they get somewhat settled, and then we'll go in there, and everybody kind of does this part different. Some people call their dogs out. Some people just let them stay in the front. Some dogs still circle. So there's variations of it, but generally that dog is either you're going to call them out and you're going to drive the cattle. And as long as they're at a walk, they're fine. If they start getting trotty, you can put the dogs back on them.
But we're also going to talk to him about how he has made the jump from a cowboy into a businessman.
Find somebody that's already done whatever it is you want to do, whether it's ranching or podcasting or social media or real estate or whatever. Find somebody ahead of you and then just mimic everything that they tell you, or that they did, find out as much as you can, mimic all the good stuff and skip the bad stuff. And you can shrink the time horizon down and not have to go through as much bad stuff maybe. But that's the whole deal, I think, is, we talked about in our episode, like, it's simple, but it's not easy. Like the little things like that, like who would have thought, just find somebody that's already done it and then copy everything they did. Like, yeah, that sounds pretty easy. Sounds pretty simple, but nobody really does it.
All that and more on this episode 514 of the Working Cows podcast, brought to you by Gray's Magazine, the South Dakota Grassland Coalition, Sunshine Bible Academy, and Ranch Right.
Welcome to the podcast that gives producers a platform to discuss and share paradigm-challenging practices. Practices that have increased the effectiveness of their operation and the joy that their families have received from this lifestyle.
Hi, everybody. It's Clay Connery, host of the Working Cows podcast. Very excited to share with you today a conversation I had with Crockett Carothers. We actually recorded this in Airwave Studios just outside of Fort Worth, Texas, while I was down there for the ranching.fyi simulation. And just reached out to Crockett, said, hey, I'm going to be in town. Would love to be on your show if you got room and if you're open to that idea. And he was. And then I said, well, obviously we should do a swap here and get you on. He said, well, I just booked an extra hour in the studio, so we can do that. So shout out to Crockett for setting that up, and Airwaves was really great to deal with. Really appreciate them. If you're ever looking for a place to record in that area, go ahead and do it there at Airwaves Studios. We're going to talk to Crockett today about how he is made the transition and made it so that he has the margin to day work, but also can afford to live and continue to thrive financially and support his family. So very much looking forward to sharing this conversation with you. Crockett, thanks for joining me today on the Working Cows podcast.
Yes, sir, for sure.
No, I wanted to talk to you today about kind of the business of day working, about what you kind of got started out doing, and then kind of how to grow beyond that, or if you feel like it's sustainable, something you could do for a long time. But yeah, just kind of that process. So first of all, maybe just start out with your definition of day working cowboy and what that looks like.
Yeah, it was kind of accidental. I grew up kind of just more rodeoing and stuff, and then got too broke to go enter the rodeos, and then found that people would pay you to come help work cows, and I had all this stuff to go do it. So like, man, this is awesome. I still get the cowboy guaranteed paycheck. So I started doing that. And when I graduated college, I went and lived with a buddy of mine who had quite a bit of work, and they ran their own cows and stuff. So we stayed busy, and it was kind of like $100 a day. 150 was like good pay then.
When was this?
That would have been 2014.
Mhm.
So yeah, I was like, man, I thought if I could make 500 a week, I was going to be doing it. So yeah, started out on that path, and then we several days a week or something. And I got the most powerful thing is I got to go experience so much stuff. I definitely didn't make a lot of money. What I made, I would spend, and buy tack and gear and trailers and horses and all that stuff. But I got to go experience a lot of different places, a lot of different people, really build my network. Super powerful now. Keep in touch with a lot of people, made a lot of friends, a lot of connections. Saw a lot of different setups that I like and don't like, and ways of doing things that I like and don't like. And then I moved back home, and that was that had been also somewhere in there like that, like 15, 16, before the market kind of crashed again. That was a pretty good time. Everybody was getting a lot of money for their cattle, and so they didn't mind paying you and taking you out to lunch. And even if we did something light, they didn't mind hiring somebody because there's plenty of money coming in. And then when it crashed, it was a little tough to hustle up work. Everybody started doing more work themselves that they could get done. But there's always those jobs that we had cow dogs, and so we would get that jobs that nobody else could do, hard jobs. We would get the occasional easy job that is just an open pasture and you go gather the cows and stuff. But a lot of times it was hard in the brush and the mesquites and cedar trees and stuff down here, and hard to find them, and then hard to pin them when you did find them and all that stuff. So, yeah, I started picking a lot of those jobs up, and then we did kind of start increasing our wages. It was kind of 150 forever, and then would get started 175, and then I remember I started working at the sale barns down here. So it's common down here for me, but talking to people like your audience, I'm sure, and like people in other spots, we have a lot of little sale barns, and a lot of little, it's real cut up country. So people bring 10 head or something to town. And so we have a lot of little sale barns that sell one at a time. They're running 500, 600, 1,000 a week or something like that. So some local sale barns, I started working there. I actually worked at one in college, at Dublin in college, and I got paid by the hour there and worked my way through that. Just being able to get to be around cows, and that grew my network also for the day working. But anyways, they needed help, so I just priced it high. I'll come for $200. I'm getting $150 to go to the pasture. This is less fun, so I'll do it for $200. Well, that turned into a business, and I was working at those 2 or 3 days a week, and was kind of buying and selling out of there, hauling stuff in, hauling stuff out, riding some horses while we were there. And I know in our episode, we talked a lot about goal setting. So I don't remember what year that was, probably like 19 or 20 or something. I'd set a goal. I was like, if I can make $1,000 a week, I'll be doing pretty good day working. So I had the sale barns. I was riding horses, hauling a lot in and out. And
when you say hauling, like hauling cattle for people to sell cars and stuff?
Yeah, I was going to the sale anyway, and I had a 32-foot trailer, so I'd call around, be like, you got anything to sell? I was going anyway, so I could charge them a cheaper rate. Same thing coming home. You need anything, I'll get somebody to buy it for you, and then I'll haul it home for you for a cheaper rate. Since I was going. So I was just trying to monetize my time as much as possible while I was there. Same with riding the horse. I was going to ride a horse anyway, so I'll get somebody to pay me to ride their horse there. So I set that goal for $1,000 a week, and at the end of the year, I grossed like $60,000, like $1,200, or whatever it was. So I surpassed that goal. So that kind of showed me the importance of goal setting. It's like, man, still pretty broke. I should have set the goal a little higher.
Let's take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsor today, Gray's Magazine. If you enjoy this podcast, you'll probably enjoy Gray's Magazine. It's all about grazing, management, mindset, and learning from other producers doing the work. It's written by grazers for grazers, and it's been around for 25 years. It's not fluff. It's practical stuff you can actually use. They're offering Working Cows listeners $10 off an annual subscription. Go to grazeonline.com and use code WORKINGCOWS to get it. So, yeah, and I want to get back to that, talk about it more, but what were the skills? What do you think are some skills that day working cowboys should have?
Yeah, going back to now, like I see like kids doing it. I say kids, like younger people. I feel like a kid too sometimes, but I'm 34 now. But like young people getting into it or something like that, like the big thing is just pay attention. And I think it's like the bar is kind of low in most industries now. If you can just pay attention, show up on time, and actually want to be there, I'm way more apt to pour into a kid that has try than maybe somebody that's handier but has a bad attitude, So I think it's way more about when somebody asks you to do something, say yes, sir, put out, do it with intent and, try and pay attention to what's going on. If you can start to see things transpiring and kind of know where to be before they happen, or it's not rocket science. Like you put the cows in the pen, you take the calves off the cows, and then you're either going to work the calves or wean them, and then you're going to run the cows through or whatever. So kind of start seeing that stuff transpire. Do we need to go get medicine ready to work the cows, or we need to go get the medicine ready for the calves, or back a trailer up, or what's it going to be? It's like, dang, you're taking some initiative. So yeah, I think that's a huge thing. I heard Tom Morehouse say that before, is just like pay attention and just that pay attention, have a good attitude and try hard. And even if you aren't real good with a rope or not on a good horse or something like that, I think you're going to get called back because you try hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell my kids that all the time. It's the one thing. So we talked on your podcast about the fact that I didn't enjoy ranching. And I think part of that was that I was a little bit lazy. Right. But I think that one thing that helps is being able to see what needs to happen next, like you said. And just because there's donuts and coffee out for the break, like a lot of times at our, I don't know what the culture is down here, but you get everything gathered and sorted, and then there's a break before the branding starts or before whatever starts.
Mm-hmm.
And this, whatever cinnamon rolls, donuts, coffee come out. Just because they're out doesn't mean you have to have them in your hand and being just leaning on the side of the pickup waiting for the next thing to happen. You can go and get the next thing ready, and then that is something that is going to cause you to get invited back, like you said, or if there's a team of people that have showed up to be day working cowboys, and maybe you're invited to join them and go run around with them and work. And we were just down in Waco, and I'm a coffee snob. My wife and I owned a coffee shop for 10 years, and shout out to Airwave Studios. Great coffee. I think that's a fellow brewer. That's a high quality brewer over there. Anyways, and so we were frequenting the Black Rifle coffee store or shop down there in Waco, and they had this sign hanging up on the inside of the door for the employees. 10 things that require zero talent. I'm sure you've heard all these before, but being on time, making an effort, being high energy, having a positive attitude, being passionate, using good body language, being coachable, doing a little extra, being prepared, having a strong work ethic, right? And I've heard so many people say that in the last few years that I would rather teach somebody, I'd rather teach somebody who's willing to work at it than try to drag somebody who's not, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just being coachable, high character, higher. I think that's one thing too, is higher character rather than trying to hire talent, right? And then you can teach talent. You can teach at least skills, on some level. So I want to circle back to something you said earlier too about working dogs. I want to hear more about your preferences and what you like and what you found work well and how you guys have used them throughout time. So what's your preference?
Yeah. So I've been around like some border collie type dogs, but we use bay dogs, cur dogs. We've used some blue lacies, and Catahoulas are under that same category. There's a guy I work with a lot. He's a Catahoula guy, but we always give him a hard time. We like really just as long as it works. I don't care what it is, but yeah, the way that I've been around and used them, and the ones that I've had, more of just I haven't really ever put a big handle on one. As long as they load up and get out a little bit, it's fine with me. But mainly,
what do you mean by that big handle? Like
I'm not telling them to do anything.
Yep.
As long as when we get to the pins or something, or whatever we're gonna do, is I'll holler at them a little bit to get out.
Your job's done. Go get in the pickup kind of a thing.
Yeah. That's about it. And then it's a pain too if you can't. I don't care about catching them or anything as long as I can open the trailer door and they'll load up, which it's a pain sometimes doing, getting them to do that. You got to chase one around. I've got some pups right now that they're too wild to catch, and then that sometimes they won't load up. But yeah, so what we've always done, pretty much, and some guys put a handle on those type dogs too, but like I said, harder to gather cattle or some like remnants or something like that in a big pasture it's brushy, hard to find. We'll usually just turn out and just start riding around, try to hit some trails maybe. A lot of times now we have the Garmin tracking collars to kind of keep up with them if it's big country, if they get going in a big circle or something like that. But let them we'll ride around till they hit a trail. They'll go find them, bay them up, hold them up in one spot. Generally, the idea is we want to go drive them to a pen somewhere or something. Sometimes we go on seek and destroy missions, we call them, where it's like, if you can get a loop on it or something, just any means necessary, as long as we can get them captured. That's more on like a remnant deal, but mainly
rope them and tie them down.
Yeah, mainly. And that's a lot of people have different feelings about doing that in front of dogs, but the main objective is to get the cattle captured. So sometimes you got to do it, but mainly you want to pin them. And even on gentle cattle, like at my house, I mean, it's all wide open, but and cut up into, you could call them traps, like 20-acre pastures or something. But I still use my bay dogs a lot there, just because I go do it by myself. If I get something dog broke, like even a set of yearlings I had at my house that I'd weaned, I could go out there. They were dog broke because I'd worked my dogs on them some. I could go pin those by myself, or some cows that I have in and out of there or anything. I can go pin all that stuff out there by myself because I have the dogs with me. So we go do stuff like that too. Not necessarily that the cattle are wild or something. It's just that we don't. A lot down here, nobody hires a big crew. So there might be 2 guys. Like a lot of times we'll work 2 or 3 guys, and you'll go pin 100 50, 100 cows or something. And so we'll use the dogs to go help gather those, and we just kind of drive the dogs, keep them together, and we just walk them to the pens. Generally is how it's supposed to work. The dogs will stay up there in front and kind of keep them contained. So it makes it easier, and it's always fun anytime you're around dogs. Even when I've been around a good border collie or something, it's always fun to see a good dog work.
Let's take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsor today, the South Dakota Grassland Coalition. The South Dakota Grassland Coalition invites you to join them for a unique birdwatching tour on a working prairie ranch. Participants will explore native grasslands while observing grassland birds, wildlife, and livestock in their natural habitat. This hands-on birding experience combines bird identification, habitat education, and grazing management insights from local experts. June 3rd and 4th near Veblen, South Dakota. Don't delay. Reserve your spot for this unique experience today at sdgrass.org. Yeah, certainly. So I want to dive in on that a little bit more too. And so the cur dogs, is that a type or a breed?
That's a both, I guess. It's like a yellow blackmouth cur.
Mhm.
Blackmouth cur is a breed. They have a registry and everything. And there's bloodlines of working dogs, and those generally go. They can be hog dogs or cow dogs. And then the Catahoula is a type of cur dog too, but it's generally spotted. I don't. Somebody may get on me about all the specifics of that, but I don't know exactly what makes there's different colored Catahoulas as well, but generally spotted, and they can have color and stuff, but they're a type of cur dog. And then the blue lacies, we got into those for a while, and they're good tracking dogs. They're a crossbred type dog. They're the state dog of Texas, actually.
The blue lacy.
Mm-hmm. And they're like part coyote, part greyhound, maybe part cur. I can't remember. I knew it one time, but I haven't had any in a while. But they're their own breed, and they're a crossbreed, and they're good. A lot of people use them for deer tracking dogs and stuff like that. But they can be good cow dogs and hog dogs as well.
Mm-hmm. And I think when you mentioned them first, you said they're bay dogs, right? And is that like baying as in barking or whatever, and that's how they're moving cattle?
Yeah, they don't necessarily move cattle. Their job is to go find them, and then so they have a little bit of a nose on them, so they'll go find them, and then a bay is just. I think like in Florida, they might call them like circle or ring dogs or something, but a bay is just, they'll circle them up and hold them in a herd basically. So before you get there, like before you engage the cattle as a rider, horse and rider coming up, generally we'll ride up on them and let them bay for a while. And they're just going to circle the cattle until they get somewhat settled. And then we'll go in there, and everybody kind of does this part different. Some people call their dogs out. Some people just let them stay in the front. Some dogs still circle. So there's variations of it, but generally that dog is either you're going to call them out and you're going to drive the cattle. And as long as they're at a walk, they're fine. If they start getting trotty, you can put the dogs back on them. I've never put that much handle on mine. I usually just let mine bay in the front. So you're driving them from the back and the dogs are hammering them from the front. Of course, if you have too much pressure, you can't drive them, but there's kind of a medium there. They're not going to run off, and then you're making them walk from behind, applying pressure. And it depends on a good dog broke set of cows, might just take one or two dogs up there and just loosely baying, and they're not going to go anywhere. Or once they know they're captured, you can call the dogs out and they're not going to go, they'll just walk. It's all about just controlling them, being low stress. And of course, if you get in some wild stuff, they're going to be stressed regardless. So, they may, they're going to be hooking the dogs and fighting and trying to run off. And if something does run off, I didn't get to that part. So if something does run off, those dogs will go to it and bite it, chew on it, bark at it, whatever it takes. Their job is to bring it back. And generally it works. You'll get some spolt stuff. Sometimes it won't come back, but generally with a cow being a herd animal, they run out there by themselves. They start getting a lot of pressure applied. They're going to want to come back to the herd. A lot of times you'll see their ears get chewed up or something like that. And then sometimes that'll teach them a lesson to stay in the middle of the herd.
Yeah, for sure. So there's a release then, like that is the pressure when they leave. Those dogs go out there and put pressure on them, and then there's a release when they come back to the herd. I think that's great.
Yeah, you generally you don't want your you don't want something to get too mouthy. Like if something's in a herd, you want that to be the release, like you said. So you don't want something like trying to bite something in a herd or something like that. And then, like I said, even some people put a handle on their dogs enough to pull them out that way, whenever they're whenever they're sitting there, you can pull the dogs off and say, okay, when you're in the herd, you're good. If you try to break or if you try to run, then you're going to get chewed on.
Right.
So,
well, you're talking about the dogs bay, and I looked over at my son and was like, I bet he already knew this, but he raised his eyebrow, which made me think maybe he didn't. But he watches one of his favorite shows is Mountain Men, and there's a guy on there that chases mountain lions with dogs, and they'd be, I would say, probably bay dogs, kind of the same thing. They get around them and kind of corral him. He's in a place where he can't shoot mountain lions for whatever reason, so they just chase him off.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, that's all they do is trying to put pressure on him to chase him off. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me, but that's, and again, another discussion for another time. So, do you think that day working is a good, maybe a way to increase a network? Is it a sustainable career? Is it what do you kind of how do you look at it?
Yeah, there's definitely guys that make a good living at it. It depends on your area. I think things are done differently up north and then even in different parts of Texas. But like, I know, like I've been down to Florida at a buddy of mine's, and they have big cattle country down there, and like those guys were staying at each ranch for like 3 weeks at a time. I know the big ranches in Texas, some of those, if you can get in there, are the same way, like Wagner's and stuff. Like if you can day work nearly year round at the same place. Where we were at, it's kind of fragmented because it's getting more cut up and less cowboy stuff. And then I think the trip hopper, everybody getting stuff cake broke, so now they can just trap their cows or pin them themselves. So that's kind of changed. It has pros and cons because it's starved a lot of guys out to go do something else. So now sometimes when like I get a deal and we need several guys, like they have to drive from a long ways because there's not that many around anymore. So because it's also harder to make a living doing it. Generally the guys down there are going to be doing something else, work at some sale barns, shoe horses, have some other type of part-time job, weld or something like that. A little bit further east of us where there's a lot of cows in East Texas, I think you can stay more busy over there. But it depends on your network. Like you got to get in with some groups of guys. Of course, when I was doing it full time, and I traveled all over. So it just kind of depends on how bad you want it. But I think the ultimate thing is you got to have something else going, or your own operation, ranching your own cattle, or have some yearlings at your house or something like that. You always kind of got to have something else going on. It's going to be, I would say it would be pretty tough to just make a career out of straight day working. Yeah.
Have your own thing going that doesn't take all your time, so you have time to go a day work and kind of have that side hustle, right? And I think that to me, that's one of the possible definitions of entrepreneurship, is that everything you do is a side hustle.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like no one thing I could survive on necessarily, but I've got multiple streams of income, which is good because you're not dependent on only one thing. Do you agree with that?
Oh, for sure. And that's what we talk a lot about on the Wealthy Cowboy show. It's talk a lot about, disconnecting your time from your income. And if you're in any manual labor job, you can't really do that. But if you have some cows turned out that are having calves, you're multiplying yourself. You don't have to be there to do anything, so you can go day work or have a job or something like that. Yearlings are going to be a little bit different if you're going to have to look at them. So it's going to require some time. So, but yeah, it takes several things. Like I said, when I was doing it, I had a trailer, I was hauling cattle, I was hustling in and out of the barns, and then we would haul cattle day working and stuff, hauling them back to somebody's house or moving them or something. And then I was always trying to ride somebody else's horse that I could get paid for. And then if you can get multiple jobs in a day, and it's very seasonal, like at home anyway, I think all over. I mean, there's
not a lot of day work in January in South Dakota.
You're gonna have at home. You're gonna have spring and fall work, and those are gonna be your main times. But thankfully, we have farmer type guys or guys that leave their bulls out year round and stuff that we can work generally all summer. And for sure, holidays and into January and stuff, unless you have some wheat pasture or something like that, you're probably not doing much cow work.
Yeah, for sure. So let's take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsor today, Sunshine Bible Academy.
It is hard to imagine life without our Sunshine Bible family. The friendships that I have gained with the SBA family are very precious to me. Even though my husband John graduated from SBA and I had been adopted into the SBA family, there's something very distinct and special about having your children attend school at SBA and watching them grow spiritually and physically. Yes, we miss them at home, but I honestly feel like we spent more time, and it was quality time, together during those years than we may have had they attended high school locally. The years of watching our two sons grow and mature at SBA in a godly environment where they were instructed by Christian men and women who really cared about them is something that I will always treasure in my heart. I'm so thankful for SBA and what it means to our family.
Find out more at sunshinebible.org. One of the things you said earlier that really I liked a lot, and the way you said it, was monetize your time. Monetize what you're already doing. And the example you gave was hauling back loads from the sale barn or hauling to the sale barn when you're already going there with room on the trailer and stuff like that. And I think that's just a really, really helpful way to think about, to help people think about, what am I already doing that I have margin to do something else while I'm doing that, or the other example you gave is riding colts, or riding horses. You already got to ride something, you're going there to do the day work job. You already got to ride something, but you're going to get paid for day working, and you're also going to get paid for riding that horse, and just to stack those, kind of like a stacked enterprise almost, that's good. That's helpful. Are there other examples of that you've used over time or things that you've done?
I try to be that way in everything I do, even now. Like when I come up here to do podcasts, I want to do multiple in a day. Sometimes I'm doing coaching calls or something like that. I run ads on this. So I'm like, how can I monetize my time as much as possible while I'm doing something? What are some other ways that I can draw revenue, bring value to people while I'm already doing this one thing? Like I like media and stuff like that. It's a very scalable, very good thing, from the podcast. Like it's because it lives on its own out there once you put it out, and it can just keep making money. I said this one time on a podcast, or I put it in a clip or something, and a lot of people blew their mind a little bit, but talked about like doing something one time and getting paid for it for the rest of your life. And I think that's very foreign to most people, but there are ways to do that, through media or, somebody that wrote a book. I mean, you look at Napoleon Hill or something from the early 1900s, and it's still selling books today, or music. I mean, some form of media probably. And then, there's other things you can create products or something like that. But, trying to maximize your time to be super efficient, monetizing in every way. And then I think the next step after that is disconnecting your time from your income. That's how you would really scale.
Talk more about that.
Getting I got into sales. I sell credit card processing. That's recurring revenue. So once you go sell an account, once you get an account, there's some service involved, but it's not like a time frame. Like you just have to contact them every once in a while, or they'll contact you. So that's running in the background. That's not really taking my time. The podcast, I go do podcasts and do my media like in certain time frames. And then that's, like I said, running in the background. It releases at certain times and I'm not doing anything, and it's sitting there making money, which social media, the platforms don't pay huge, but it's a side hustle deal, like you talked about, an income stream that helps. Little things like that.
Well, for example, shout out to Justin Rader and Lane at 100th Meridian Ranching. I reached out to them once I'd seen that they were on here, and I said, hey, could you get me in touch with Crockett? I'd like to connect with him while I'm in town. And I'd pitched to you. I said, hey, let's do an episode swap. And you were like, yeah, let's just record yours while you're here. Record your episode. So here we are, recording the Working Cows podcast while I was already here to do the Wealthy Cowboy show, And so I think that's just another example of, I'm already going to be here. I'm already making the trip up. Might as well, take advantage of it, kill two birds with one stone and figure that out, right?
Yeah. Just really, I think mean, that comes back to like I had the same mindset when I was day working and stuff. It's like how can you be efficient? How can you pay attention, anticipate the next step? Get and like day working was like really taught me. I worked one job, or actually the sale barn when I worked there in college, and then I had another job in college that paid by the hour. Well, when you get paid by the hour, you're incentivized to just work a lot of hours, which the sale barn, back then you could get, that was like 2011. So we're bad drought down here. So we're running several thousand every week. So I could go get 40 or 50 hours there in 2 or 3 days. And, so I could get all the hours I wanted. So I was like, heck yeah, I can knock this out in 3 days and have the rest of my week to go hang out, go to the bar or whatever. And so then as I got, started day working and getting paid just to do a job. So it's $100 or $150 or $200 or now sometimes $400. And it's like, here's the job, whether it takes 2 hours or 2 days, this is what it's going to pay. Well, then you're incentivized to be as efficient as possible and get it done as fast as possible, but you still have to do a good job. So, balancing that out and like, let's get this done quickly. And then that has evolved because it used to be like, let's get this done quickly and then go hang out or sit on the couch or something. Then it turned into when I was wanting to hustle more. It's like, we'll get this job done. We'll go do another job. And then we'll ride some horses at night and do all that. And you get a big paycheck. It takes a lot of your time though.
Yep. I think that disconnecting your pay from the hourly work is that's a huge paradigm for a lot of people and very helpful. So you said earlier that you think day working would be hard to make it a sustainable career forever. Was there a natural stepping out point where that helped you get into what you're doing now or the next career, or are there off ramps into good careers from there, you think, or was it just like, okay, that was a good time in my life, but now I got to do something else to pay the bills, support the family, all that?
Yeah, no, I never really had another path. Like all I ever wanted to do was Cowboy. So, but what opened my eyes, I started reading some Cowboy books. Loved the Ben K. Green books, Ed Ashurst, like all just the cowboy stories, Elmer Kelton. Started reading those, and then I got introduced to podcasts by my wife, and she was driving, and I was asleep. We were going somewhere, and I woke up, and she was listening to Cow Horse Full Contact, and I was like, "What is this?" And she's like, "It's a podcast," and it was they were telling kind of cowboy stories. A lot of those cow horse guys, especially the older ones, come from a cowboy background and stuff. So I just fell in love with that. I always loved listening to stories and stuff. So fell in love with that, just binged all those episodes, searched Cowboy and on the podcast app and listened to all the other ones, and things started popping up. Well, I got into Brad Lee's podcast, Dropping Bombs, which is a entrepreneur business type podcast. And I just thought that looked cool, and I scrolled through there, found an episode I liked, and liked the podcast, so skipped through there. And anyway, so I'm traveling a lot. Like I said, going to day work and going to the sale barn and stuff. I'm in the truck a lot, so I started listening to those all the time. And just like if I was in the truck, we're listening to podcasts, and it drove my wife crazy when we go travel or something. But in that, I found the business podcast, and then that led me to listening to business and personal development books and stuff like that. And then also at the same time, I was dating my wife at the time, and I was turning 30, dating her, and we're going to get settled down and all this, and turning 30. And it's like, man, I really haven't done anything with my life. And so I started feeling the push to make more money. That's when I set the $1,000 a week deal, and it didn't get me anywhere really. So I was like, it's going to take a lot more money to provide for a family the way that I want to and have the nice things that I want and all this. And then also another thing to look at when you're a cowboy or any type of manual labor is like, if you get hurt or sick or anything, like there's no income. One of my buddies that I work with, he he fractured his leg the other day, and I filled in for him at the sale barns and stuff. And he was like, "Man, I can't sit at home. I'm not making any money." And I've felt that before. I broke my leg before and stuff. So it's a struggle, if you can't go to work, you're going behind every day. So I was like, I gotta do something. And I started getting introduced to these ideas of business and stuff. So I got into sales. I was like, I think the main progression that a lot of people have is like from a cowboy is like you become a real estate agent or a welder, build metal buildings or build fence. That's how it is down here anyway. And I was like, everybody's a real estate agent down here. There's going to be a lot of competition. And I could weld and stuff, but I also didn't want to go buy a bunch of equipment. I'm like, what can I do for little to no startup cost and that'll still make a lot of money and not take a lot of my time? Because I still wanted the cowboy as much as I could. And I got into life insurance sales first, and then I also found the credit card processing, and then went in on that. And then in the middle of all that, I was like, man, these podcasts are powerful. Social media is powerful. Like, it's changed my life. I'm like, what if I start going into that? So I got into social media when I got into sales, and I was making some sales off of that. Saw that. I'm like, I'm going to start a podcast. I wish there was a podcast that taught cowboys and people in Western and ag industries and merge that with business, how to make money, how to manage money, how to invest money. I was like, there's got to be more people out there like me that want to increase their income, but don't know how, don't know the steps that take, the books to read, the people to talk to, the industries that are out there. So I was like, it's very slowly evolved because I did not want to do it. I just kept saying, I wish somebody would do this. I wish somebody'd put this content out. And finally it was like, it's me, I guess. So that was 2 years ago. And the podcast and social media has turned into a business. I still have the credit card processing business. And both of those allow me to do, like you've said, it's opened a lot of doors for me, opened a lot of connections, and also allows me to go day work. I'm going to work at a sale barn tomorrow, and it's a lot more fun now. And springtime's coming, so there'll be some brandings to go to and stuff like that, and go have fun. And I have some of my own cows and that we're ranching, and then also trading on stuff, run sheep and goats. So the whole dream was to own my own operation and ranch and cowboy for a living. And it's just a weird circle that it's the path that we've taken to get there.
Let's take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsor today, Ranch Right. We've been telling you for years about the power of working with the team at Ranch Right to help you acquire actionable financials so you can build a profitable business and pass on generational wealth. Don't just take our word for it. Listen to some of these responses on a recent survey of Ranch Right's clientele. 97% of them said they understood their financials better as a result of working with Ranch Right. 91% said Ranch Right saves them time, and over again in the survey, these ranchers say the value of working with the team at Ranch Right is the team. Many of them remarked that the conversations with their Ranch Right team member helped them see the opportunities they had for business growth and success. They used words like eye-opening and helpful to describe the reports, saying that they had more clarity about the next step as a result of the product of Ranch Right's work. Head over to ranchrightllc.com today to book your discovery call and see how Ranch Right can speed up your path to profitability.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and we talked about that too, I think, on the Wealthy Cowboy Show, is not despising a different route of getting there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So were there other passive incomes that caught your eye but you didn't pursue? You went with the credit card. Okay, is passive income the right term? Would you call that? Would you say it's the right term?
Yeah, I always say it's not a lot of things are actual passive income. That's a phrase loosely. That's what got me into the whole business thing. I was like, man, if I can do some of these real estate deals, get some passive income coming in, then I can go day work and I'll have more income coming in.
And then you hear the horror stories about renting properties, and it's like, not as passive, is it?
Yeah. Well, I was like, really, I'm not making much active income. I probably need to build that up first. So, yeah, but yeah, I got into industries that I knew could scale, not take a lot of my time. Yeah, it's going to be hard to find something truly passive, but if it doesn't take a lot of your time.
Yep.
So now that's changed. Yeah, there's a ton of opportunity out there for a young person looking to make more money. Really, I would say find the most successful person you know and ask what they do and how they did it is the easiest, or start listening to podcasts. And like that Brad Lee's podcast, you hear a million different ways of these people making money. There's a million different ways to make money in real estate. There's a million different sales jobs and technology and all of the things. Like, so yeah, you got to kind of find something that you're interested in. And then I say, like, sales is the fastest thing to get into some type of sales. Find a product or service that you really believe in, and then get in and sell that. As long as it's, you want to see people that are ahead of you and make sure that they're living the life that you want to live. Which is kind of what I saw day working. Is like, man, I see these older guys that can't hardly get around, and they have to go to work, and they can't do as much work as a younger guy, but they still got to do it because they have to. And I wanted more options than that.
Mm-hmm.
So, more freedom. And that's what got me into it all. So yeah, I tell people, like, I despise sales forever. I was like, I'm never going to do that. I'd skipped all those podcast episodes about sales. And then I'm like, that's the only route I knew. But you do want to find something you want to believe in, that you can get behind you, that you believe in. There's lots of opportunity in the ag sector to sell for medicine reps, feed reps, cattle marketing. So you can do it in the ag industry, or trucks and trailers. Equipment. There's lots of opportunity to stay in the ag industry, but get into sales and then get some type of commission that will somewhat disconnect your time a little bit.
Yep. Is the credit card processing thing something that can be done across state lines, or is it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's nationwide.
Okay.
And I have some accounts in different states and stuff that have found me through the show.
Sure. Nice. Very cool. Okay. So the social media thing for you, how did that work? What was the start of that, or how did that grow over time?
Yeah, I'd say I loved it. I was a big consumer of it for a long time, but it was making me money long before I ever thought about it. When I was in college, I was trading bits and spurs and half-top trailers and horses and stuff on there before it was a big thing. And one of the first groups I got in was Cowpuncher Swap Shop, and I was like, man, this is crazy. And then they had the auction page, and so I was buying and selling handmade goods and tack and trailers and stuff all the time, kind of making an income trading all that stuff. And so I always loved Facebook, just to keep up with people and then just to trade stuff, and never really thought anything else of it. I hardly ever posted anything unless it was for sale. And just when I got into podcasts and stuff, I was like, and I started following these guys, and like I just became fans. And I'm like, man, they don't even have anything for sale, but I want to buy something from them. I want to do something with them. And the ones that did have something for sale, started taking courses and books and whatever they offered. So I was like, man, that's powerful. What that can do for somebody. Like, you make a connection with somebody even though you never met them in real life. And so I started seeing that. And then some of those people teach personal brand and talk a lot about personal branding and courses and all that. So I started doing that, and I'm like, I just committed to, when I got into sales, I was like, I just committed to putting one video out a day talking about what I offered, and started from there. I just put it on selfie mode and talked into the phone, and sucked and stuttered and stammered, and did that. I don't know how long that lasted, but made some sales and kind of got through. And then I was like, what I really need is a podcast. And I was really convicted on my idea of the vision that I had, what I wanted to do with it. I already had a guest list and all that, and I had it all mapped out. And then the podcast turns into a content machine through the video, so it gives me content to post all the time, just from doing the podcast once a week. So
yep,
it kind of all evolved. And I tell people too all the time, like, it's a good, a lot of the ranch jobs down here, they forever. I can't believe people still pay this, but they're paying like $2,000 a month, or something. I know some pay more, but like $2,000 a month, you can make that off of monetizing on the platforms. And some people do, and you see they are out there cowboying and just videoing it and making content around it and stuff. I'm like, man, that can replace or double your income,
right?
Or replace it or double it.
Yep. I have this ranch job, not to pay the bills, but so I have content to post.
Right. Yeah. And it's crazy. And people want to see the cool content out there doing cowboy stuff, and sometimes it's as simple as just having your phone out. You don't even have to be on the camera.
Well, and now, I mean, it's getting easier and easier to capture that content with, like the Ray-Ban glasses and the Meta glasses and GoPros, of course, have been around a long time, and they look funny on a cowboy hat, but they work.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, I do think that the perspective that you get from those Ray-Ban, the Meta glasses or whatever, you can see where they're looking, and that really does kind of inform what is actually happening and stuff like that from a perspective of their intention is focused on this and it's having that effect on the cow or whatever. That's just me nerding out from a stockmanship perspective. But so what was the timeline of the social media prior to the podcast? How long was the social media how long were you focused on building that before the podcast?
Maybe a year or two, something like that. I don't really remember for sure, but probably at least a year, maybe 2 years.
And it's a pretty good sized platform from what I've seen. So was that grown? I've heard from other people that those tend to grow with viral clips. Like as clips go viral, the platform grows, and I've seen that actually happen in my own life. Too, in very recent history. So is that your experience that those viral clips grow those platforms kind of as fast as anything, or about the fastest way to grow them?
To grow your podcast, the clips?
No, the actual Facebook page.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that helps. I mean, I always tell people consistency is the first thing. So like I just set low expectations. I never wanted like one video to do 1 million views or something. I was like, if I just get 1,000 views per video and I post 3 a day, it's 3,000 views. And I just started adding it up, I'd make a few $100s or whatever it comes out to be. Just talking about Facebook, each platform's a little different, but I set very low expectations. But just in that consistency and paying attention to it, I mean, it's going to grow. So yeah. And then you're going to, as you go on, you figure out what's good, what's bad, how to make something better through a title or a filter or whatever it is. Just little ways to make things better. So it helps. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's funny because anytime somebody asks me what the key to growing a podcast is, I say consistency.
Yeah, because it's a huge statistic that like 90-something% never get past like 5 episodes. No telling how many never even start. So it's a big thing to go. When I did it, I was like, I'm just going to do it for a year. Commit to that. I don't care if anybody watches. And then after a year, if nobody's watching and we're not making any money or doing anything, not making any traction, and I haven't made any connections or something, like I try to tie all my goals internally and focus on the inputs instead of the outputs. Like I didn't have a monetary goal or view goal or follower goal. It's just if I was going to be fulfilled myself, then I would decide to quit or not, which it did all of the things. It consistently grew followers and views and monetization, finally came after a year or roughly a year or something. So I think that's a big thing, is just sticking to something long enough to actually get some traction doing it. I tell people, like, I've started another path I never thought I'd go down, but I've been coaching some people on social media and podcasting, and I tell them, like, you have no credibility when you start. You can be doing the exact same things that I'm doing, and nobody's going to pay attention to you because nobody knows you. Nobody has any credibility. They think you're going to be gone tomorrow, because most people are. So that's the big thing you have to get through is put enough out there, do it long enough to get the credibility to build a reputation and build a brand. People know what to expect, from you, what it's going to be. And there's some ways to speed that up. And then sometimes I've talked to people on here too that get lucky. I mean, you can do that too. I always say, like, it just sometimes maybe one video like takes off and then you're overnight success. But most of the time it's going to be a long drawn out process.
You're more likely to get struck by lightning.
Yeah.
So don't count on that. I mean, it's possible but don't count on it.
Hope is not a strategy.
Yeah, right, for sure. So as far as the content strategy is concerned from growing social media platforms, there's value in that, right? Annalisa Walker, I love quoting her. She said, "You got to feed the toddler monster," right? It's hungry all the time and it's short attention span talking about social media platforms. So your strategy early on was three posts a day. Is that what you said?
Like when I first started, I think I was just committing to one post a day on one platform, just on Facebook. And now I've scaled that. Like when I started the podcast, it was just one interview episode a week. And then as we got going on that, I added a solo episode that comes out once a week. And then we do some other little ones in between and stuff sometimes for sponsors or something like that. Or if there's something special or something like that. But yeah, I tell people, like, the main thing is consistency. So whatever you can commit to, I mean, the more the better. On more platforms, the better. The more different styles, the better. But
what do you mean by styles?
Like written, pictures, video, stories. That's why I like Facebook, because it has all the different kinds of content. Because I use all of them. Yeah, sometimes just committing, like whatever you can commit to and stay consistent on is what you need to do. Like I tell people, whatever app you open when you sit down to scroll and kill time, focus on that one. If it's Instagram or TikTok or YouTube or Facebook, just focus on that one. And then when I started, I had a lot of time and no money, so I manually posted and manually did everything. And then as you start to get some money, or if you already start with money, you can just put money towards it and not take as much of your time. But it's going to take one or the other. It's either going to take time or money. You're going to have to invest one or the other. So if you don't have any, you surely have one of something.
Yes.
But it's going to take one or the other. I've had like successful people, monetary, like successful business owners and stuff talk about starting a podcast, and they're like, "Man, that's a lot of work." And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's going to be work. So you're either going to have to put the time towards it or not do it, or you can just put money towards sponsoring somebody else's or something. Yep. It's going to take one or the other.
Yep. Yeah. And so now some of that is outsourced or as far as like the actual content creation, the actual clip, is outsourced, right? That's kind of how you're...
Yeah, the studio handles a lot of just the main podcast and releasing that and stuff, and then I use AI tools to help clip it up and schedule it out and post it. I still do a lot of manual posting just on Facebook. It does a little bit better if you manually do it, but it depends on the time that you want to take for it. So yeah, I use some AI tools and some automation type stuff to help with a lot of that, and then they help with the production and all that on this side.
Yeah. So what's next for you? What are things that are on your mind or that you're looking forward to as far as new avenues or growing what you're already doing? What is kind of the things that have captured your attention?
Yeah, it's tough. Like we talked about, like saying no, like finding those right opportunities. So trying to stay focused on what I've already got going with the media. And I've changed the podcast to more just a media company in my mind, the podcast is a branch of it, but it's social media. It's also media. We do stuff for business owners, do videos and marketing and stuff like that for business owners as well. So it's really like a full media company that has its own ecosystem. Then I have the credit card processing that I'm always looking for new clients and growing that business. The ranching is kind of taking a back seat to all that. Just because it's fun to go do and I love it, but I can go make more money to put back into ranching. Doing the other things, more leverage there. I don't really know. I'm really interested in doing some real estate deals in the future of some sort. And there's
as an investment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a million different ways to do that. So picking one path to go down, is tough sometimes. I'm always looking for opportunity in the ranching and ag business too. It's just finding the ones that are going to give you the best return. And then recently we started, as much as I deal with business owners, as much as I've learned over the couple years that I've been studying, I'd really like to buy, buy a business. Really interested in ag businesses like a feed store, ag retail type store, feed company, something like that. I don't really know, but we're kind of keeping an eye out for maybe buying a business like that
in Texas.
Yeah, probably somewhere that I can put eyes on it, for a little while.
Sure, cool. Yeah, no, I think it's a fun trajectory to trace, kind of your path, and then I think it's applicable to a lot of people as far as just the power of social media and a lot of the people that listen to this podcast are direct marketing beef and other products from the ranch and that social media, the podcasting. I've told so many people that direct market their beef or whatever. I said podcasting was made for that kind of stuff, and it can be local. You can be locally focused with your podcast on people in your neighborhood, and talking to them. And it can drive business for the business of the direct marketing beef, So I think there's opportunities.
Yeah, the more niche down you get, I mean, the more powerful. You're going to have smaller numbers, but you're going to be a bigger authority in your small community or state. Whatever you're trying to reach there.
Yep, I just told somebody that the other day. The more niched down you are, the more you can charge per download. Really is what it comes down to as far as advertisers are concerned, right? The more focused you are. So, and that is, so it doesn't take a lot to be pretty powerful, and the example that's always given is, how much, if you're talking to advertisers or talking to, how much would you pay to be able to talk directly to 50 of your ideal customers? How much would you pay to be able to talk directly to 5,000 of your ideal customers?
Yeah.
And so it starts to make sense for people pretty quickly.
Yeah, I tell people that too on the same side of the marketing side. It's like you look at what a TV station or radio station charges, which they have their demographics, but it's going to be way more broad. You could niche down to the Cowboy channel, but it's also, you're going to reach maybe too big of an area. And I tell people that too. Sometimes on the podcast, it's like nationwide plus Canada and Australia and stuff. And I'm like, if you can't distribute something nationwide, your dollars aren't going to be well spent unless you just want to repurpose the ad or something like that. But if it's a local thing, but there's also local people want to advertise somewhere too. So like you said, if you can niche down to a specific industry or specific community, town, county, I mean, whatever, there's a need for it, I think.
Yep. And it might have been the fact that I wasn't paying attention when I was younger, but I don't think I recognized a single Cowboy name you mentioned as far as like the books that you mentioned and stuff like that. Are they all Texas history?
The Cowboy books I was talking about? Yeah. Ben K. Green is, he talks a lot about the Weatherford area. And so his books, and he grew up like early 1900s. So it's the kind of the turn of some modern stuff in there, some cars and stuff, but he also rode horseback a lot. And I don't know if all those stories are true or not, but they're really good stories. But he has horse trading, some more horse trading, wild cow tales, 1,000 miles of Mustang. And so horse trading, that's self-explanatory. He was a horse trader, and he's just always has some deals going on. They're pretty entertaining. And Wild Cow Tales, he called it, he bought a lot of cattle range delivery. He'd hang out in the stockyards in Fort Worth, and people would have cattle they couldn't gather or something. So he would go out there wherever they were and gather. And it was, crazy. He would go out there, just ride horseback and take a couple horses and camp out. And so real cowboy stuff. It's pretty entertaining. 1,000 miles of Mustang, and he goes down. He had nothing going on. So he goes down into Mexico. He goes into Big Bend in Southwest Texas, and then goes into Mexico and goes to gathering a bunch of wild horses, goes all the way, comes out like in Arizona, and crosses the horses into Arizona and takes them to a train and ships them back east, and sells them. Gets paid some small fee, but they're really good stories. And he's got there's a couple more, but they're all pretty entertaining. Ed Ashurst is the Arizona guy. He's still alive, but he has some really cool Arizona tales. Elmer Kelton, I think, is Texas based. He has I think it's Elmer. I'm pretty sure I'm saying this right, but the Time It Never Rains, a really good book about West Texas, and I don't remember how long the drought lasted, but the struggles of the drought and having to adapt to that and stuff. There's a bunch of good ones, but I'll just listen to a podcast like a day or two ago that was talking about recommended reading and stuff, and they said just read whatever you will read, just read, and that will get you in the habit of it, and then you'll start expanding.
Yep. One of my favorite quotes about reading is, if you read one author, you're a clone. If you read two authors, you're confused. If you read 1,000 authors, you can become wise. So I think that just reading broadly and then, developing that, flexing that muscle. Everything we do is a muscle, right? Mm-hmm. We talked a little bit about that on your show, that everything we do is a muscle, and you flex those muscles and they get stronger and better. And so if reading is hard at first, that's okay. But flex the muscle and keep on reading, because there's a lot of value. Everybody's heard the cliche, leaders are readers. And so it's worth the investment, right?
Yeah.
What about podcasts or resources for growing social media? What were some of the things that helped you, or was it just that advice of being consistent? Were there specific things that you found valuable as far as listening, reading, following people to help grow those social media platforms?
Yeah, so like Brad Lee was a big guy I followed and kind of modeled my show after his.
Yep.
And then Ryan Pineda was another one. He's gone more niche down into real estate investing now. But if somebody's interested in that, he has a lot of good content. But that's where I got the Wealthy Cowboy. His brand is the Wealthy Way, and all his stuff is branded wealthy, every little branch. But his is like being wealthy in life, like not just chasing money, but having a strong family life, a strong relationship with God, making money, and all the all the things, not just financial. So I really like that message. So he was a big one. Ty Lopez I've took a lot of his courses and a lot of his stuff as far as social media. He has some actual social media, like specific courses and stuff like that. There's a bunch. The School of Hard Knocks, they have some social media stuff, and they have a cool format as well. But I think once you kind of get into it, like once I got into Brad Lee, he had a bunch of all the big people on, and then it opened your eyes into, they're talking about different books I would go look up, and different podcasts to go look up, and different things to follow. And once you kind of get in that algorithm, you'll start branching out, and you'll find which ones you want to follow and which ones you don't, and it'll lead you to new ones and take you different places. And the whole deal is just getting into it, getting started.
Yeah. And I just said this earlier this week that, nobody's an island, right? Don't let the imposter syndrome keep you from starting something great. And like you patterned yours after, the Wealthy Way guy, I patterned mine after the Tom Woods Show. It was a podcast I was listening to when I started mine. And my show format at the beginning was just his show format, and I told you, Tom's podcast, that's where I got the idea for Ranching Podcast, and I went out and grabbed it, ranchingpodcast.com that's where I got that idea, from tomspodcast.com, and so don't be afraid to imitate somebody, don't steal their stuff, don't copy them directly, be genuine. But originality is kind of maybe a little overblown. Would you agree?
Oh yeah. Even on the deal of, there's that saying of like, good artists copy, great artists steal. That's an old saying. I can't remember who said it, but, yeah, I mean, and that's the whole deal is find somebody that's already done whatever it is you want to do, whether it's ranching or podcasting or social media or real estate or whatever. Find somebody ahead of you and then just mimic everything that they tell you, or that they did, find out as much as you can, mimic all the good stuff and skip the bad stuff. And you can shrink the time horizon down and not have to go through as much bad stuff maybe, but that's the whole deal, I think, is we talked about in our episode, like, it's simple, but it's not easy. Like the little things like that, like who would have thought, just find somebody that's already done it and then copy everything they did. Like, yeah, that sounds pretty easy. Sounds pretty simple, but nobody really does it. And I think a lot of times, I mean, of course you're going to have bad actors, but I think a lot of times people that are successful are willing to, give you advice if you follow it. If you follow the advice, and you're going to pay attention to them, but, reach out to somebody like you said. Don't be afraid to reach out to somebody, and whatever it is you want to do, if you're mainly ranching or something, just talk to all those successful guys. Just start, even if whoever you can get a hold of, if it's somebody in your town, the most successful person in your town who's not that successful, but is further than you are, you can probably learn something from them.
And another thing that comes to mind is, don't think that just because they inherited it, they're not successful, because it's just as easy to lose a ranch, so it just keeping one going is there's something to be said for that, right?
Yeah. You talk to as many people as you can. And you're going to have good and bad. And that's going to kind of show you the direction. Even somebody that has operation like you don't want to have, ask them what they did, and then don't do those things.
Right. Or things that are good but don't apply to you. That I don't want to do that, or that won't work for me. But that's a possibility.
Yeah, or it could give you an idea to change it a little bit to fit you.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm doing what not to do. Like, that's what Charlie Munger always talks about, is invert. So find out where you're going to die and never go there, And he's like, what would make your business fail? And list out all those things and then do the opposite of them. It's makes it more simple than trying to figure out the things that are going to make it succeed. Just do the opposite of the stuff that's going to make you fail. And another thing, like, is if you hear somebody and you think they tell you to do something, that they're successful, and they tell you to do something and you don't think it'll work, go prove them wrong. Yeah. That's another perspective that I've taken. Some is like, man, that's stupid, I'm not going to do that. And then it's like, I'm going to go try and, try to prove them wrong. But, probably a lot of times you're not going to prove them wrong. It's probably right.
My dad ended up in a pretty high leadership position in his town job before he retired. And he told me one time that one of the reasons he did that is because somebody told him he couldn't. He said, all right, watch me.
Yeah.
And he didn't really even want the job that badly. It was a kind of more of a desk job, but somebody told him he couldn't. He's like, all right.
Yeah.
And that's what he finished his career there doing. So yeah, very good. Crockett, I really appreciate your time today. How could people get a hold of you, follow you?
Yeah. The Wealthy Cowboy Show. You search that on any platform, something's going to pop up. But the podcast is on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. My main platform that I spend the most time on and post the most on is Facebook. Also on Instagram some and stuff, but anywhere you search, it should pop up.
Very good. Thanks for your time.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Very good stuff there with Crockett. Really appreciate his perspective and the way that he's gone about making that transition, opening up margin so that he can still do the day working and continue to make a living. Looking forward to next week on the podcast. Going to be sharing with you a conversation that I had with Ian Murdoch, and he has developed an AI-driven platform called save.ag, where you can go and ask questions and get research-based, evidence-based answers. And so just really excited to showcase this service and this product that he is launching and has recently launched, and get it out for everybody to see. So we will see you again real soon on another episode of the Working Cows Podcast.
We invite you to visit workingcows.net to subscribe to the show via iTunes or Stitcher. You'll also find detailed show notes pages, resources from our guests, and the industry leaders who have influenced them. For more ideas on putting your cows to work for you in a more profitable way, tune in next week.